Can you please just introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Sonali Srungaram. I'm the managing director for Cypher Oncology Private Limited. We run a distributed cancer hospital across the states of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, and we
Hmm.
work under the brand of CION Cancer Clinics. So today this is for patients in medical, surgical, and radiation oncology. And the idea is to try and make cancer care affordable, quality cancer care accessible to everybody in India.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So what motivated to start your venture? How did the thought come up?
I think it was a confluence of events, to be honest, Chetra, because I think I was a professional. I was an associate partner with Accenture for over
Hmm.
12 years, working in their New Zealand, Singapore, India, and London practices. So when I returned to India, the intent was probably to continue my professional consulting career. But
Hmm.
couple of things happened. One, I think corporate India was not yet ready to accommodate working parents into their fold. It was extremely difficult for them to try and accommodate whether it was, part-time work or flexi work. And
Hmm.
while that was happening, very unfortunately, I had three cancer cases in the family between the years 2012 and 14. And I think that changed my mind about what I
Hmm.
wanted to do and decided to repurpose my professional career into an entrepreneurial one and haven't
Perfect.
looked back since.
Oh, that's really great. So digital health has seen a major transformation in the past few years, especially in India.
Yes, it
So
has.
what
Yes.
impact has it had on your company?
The version of the distributed cancer hospital, Chatra, we really launched, or we started the idea in 2019 and it was launched in 2020. So, very sadly, we were a COVID baby.
Yeah.
So, oncology care in that sense, given it has high mortality and high morbidity, always worked on a very strong face-to-face relationship between patient, carer, and the doctor.
Hmm.
But when COVID struck, two things happened. One, cancer patients are immunosuppressant, so they could
Hmm.
not be close to others who might have had infectious diseases. And all of a sudden, all our hospitals started getting filled with COVID wards treating COVID patients. So, for
Yeah.
the first time, a lot of cancer patients started requesting that they would want to do online consultations rather than actually face to face ones. So, that
Hmm.
began a trend for us. And based on that trend, what happened was that today, until and unless an intervention is required, which is face to face, all our consultations happen digitally. And I think that's actually empowered a lot of our patients. And especially given a large chunk of our patients are not just in the city, but are actually residents in districts around our
Hmm.
cities, that really helps because it respects their time. They don't
Yeah.
have to come in and travel for about 4 to 6 hours just to have a 20-minute consultation. So I
Hmm.
think that way we are very patient centric, and digital has
Hmm.
actually helped enhance that aspect of the company.
Yeah, it has actually suited the motto of being patient
No,
centric.
absolutely. I think
Yeah.
it's about looking for a silver lining in all of this, and that's
Mm-hmm.
really made a difference for us.
Yeah. So what do you think is the most important thing providers should consider, when looking for patient engagement, especially?
I think it's probably not just applicable to healthcare, but given the
Hmm.
latest trend of how consumers look at services and the service sector at large, I
Hmm.
think consumer centric, and especially in our case, patient centric, is
Hmm.
what we really want to focus on. So
Hmm.
I think providers in the past have been very service provider centric, i.e., the institution matters. The doctors are the most important element. And the patient would have to travel as well as make a lot of personal changes in order to come
Hmm.
and receive that service.
Yeah.
I think consumers are becoming a lot more savvy.
Hmm.
Disposable income has increased,
Hmm.
and the consumer has a very clear idea of what quality service for them means.
Hmm.
And in that sense, what is actually happening now is patients and their families are very clear that they want a certain quality of service. And therefore, unless providers like us change their models to become patient centric, I think we will actually be missing a big trick. So if we want to
Hmm.
be relevant for the next 5 to 10 to 15 years, then changing service centric models into patient centric is where the future will lie.
Oh, that's really true. And what kind of an impact do you intend to make in the Indian healthcare space with your company?
I think the work for us, Chatra, has always been to try and create affordable and accessible healthcare.
Hmm.
And with a majority of cancer patients who are actually live outside the main cities where the services are provided. So 90%
Hmm.
of services are provided in big cities, but
Hmm.
90% of patients live outside these cities. So
Yeah.
for us, the answer is that we would want to make affordable, quality healthcare accessible to middle class India and
Hmm.
hopefully to the segment that is also served by the government and the trust hospitals today. I think we
Hmm.
want to make sure that everyone in India has a good chance of actually beating cancer so that
Hmm.
cancer doesn't become something that defines you and your life, but hopefully just becomes an event that you could, work your way through and look past.
So it can be safe to say that you guys are pioneers in changing the cancer healthcare space.
I don't know if I would go beyond, I mean, be so bold as to say pioneering, but the intent is very clearly there. And
Hmm.
being a much younger team, being a team that is happy to look at existing processes and question why, I
Hmm.
think we are not afraid of questioning existing processes. We are not afraid of looking things in the eye and saying this can change. We are very
Hmm.
happy to champion the cause, but we also
Hmm.
believe there is enough room for many more to come and add. But
Hmm.
yes, I think whether we feel we are right for the title of pioneer or not, we clearly are very vested in it, very
Hmm.
passionate about it. And I think this is
Hmm.
going to be something we're going to push for a very long time.
Oh, that's really good to hear. So, Mrs. Sonali, can you give us some insights into the major offerings of the company, like the types of products and services, and how does your company support people with these kind of offerings?
Sure. I think for us, mainly, Chatra, oncology is very large. It has
Hmm.
several departments. So there are three major departments, which is medical, surgical, and radiation oncology.
Hmm.
What we do is provide the entire suite of services from outpatient care to diagnostics, medical,
Hmm.
surgical, and radiation oncology.
Hmm.
And where we don't personally provide the services, we tie up with vendors who can
Hmm.
provide and can outsource our services too. But the patient doesn't have to deal with anybody else, just us. So
Hmm.
we offer the entire suite of services to every patient.
Hmm.
And the most important thing that we do is we make sure that cancer, being a chronic disease,
Hmm.
is a long term commitment, both from the service provider as well as the patient. So
Yeah.
that means we need to have longitudinal support. So we're
Hmm.
talking about 6 months, 9 months, sometimes a couple of years, sometimes and even lifelong support.
Hmm.
So the services that we offer are not just at the point where the individual comes to us for help, but
Hmm.
fundamentally from the point of offering them whatever they need. We also extend to the fact that oncology is not just or oncology does not just affect the patient but also the family. So
Hmm.
family based support, family based counseling is also what we do. So
Hmm.
taking care of the individual and their family, providing them an end to end solution is basically what we do, Chaitra.
Yeah, that's really great. And what has been the development path of your establishment? Can you please brief us about the milestones of your organization?
Sure. We did before we started in 2019, before we founded the company in 2019, we did do a lot of work in the oncology space, not treatment per se, but in understanding the human condition and understanding what individuals go through in India.
Hmm.
So we had done a lot of our primary research by doing outreach programs. We had
Hmm.
run helplines. We had created allied service programs. Most importantly, we had also had the wonderful opportunity to work with the government of Telangana to do
Hmm.
screening for oral, breast, and cervical cancer. And all of these
Hmm.
pretty much became primary research and inputs for us to really create the work that we are doing right now at CION Cancer Clinics.
Hmm. Hmm.
So we have actually rolled up all of these services. So
Hmm.
at CION Cancer Clinics, when we started the company in 2019, we were able to launch our services by 2020. We
Hmm.
started launching them in the city of Hyderabad first. And as we worked through, we made sure we pulled in our helpline model into this, we pulled in our allied services model, and we were able to expand our services by 2021. It was a difficult year. It was when COVID was primarily at large, but we did extend our services in Hyderabad. By 2022, we started moving out into districts from Hyderabad, and we also started our work primarily in the city of Visakhapatnam in Andhra Pradesh. So today we fundamentally work out of 20 points of presence across these two cities. And the idea is that hopefully by 2025, we should have saturated the cities of Hyderabad and Vizag, doing a lot more work, and hopefully also creating what we call a center of excellence, where we would like to probably now start bringing some of the outsourced services in-house as well. So that's the plan for the next couple of years, and I think we're working really hard to try and achieve that.
That's quite an expansion.
It is quite an expansion, yes.
So yeah, how can you enhance the quality of healthcare services in India, while not adding to the cost?
I think maybe this is the time where healthcare should actually look out and take a leaf from some other sectors. Whether you look at retail, you look at FMCG, you look at IT, for example, and they've all understood that fundamentally owning assets doesn't have to be the real answer to all solutions. I understand the comfort of owning your own and saying you don't have to rely on somebody, but that necessarily does not have to be cost effective. And if you're the service that you acquire, if it's not cost effective, then the service you provide will also not be cost effective. And today,
Yeah.
as customers become very value centric, they want quality, but they will not pay unnecessarily for that quality. And that's them being a smart consumer, right? And that's what you want. As consumers become smarter about how they decide services, I think we should start looking at elements like outsourcing. Do we really need to own the entirety of all our services? Can we actually collaborate? So the model in healthcare has been quite aggressively competitive. And I think collaboration might actually create much stronger partnerships. And I think we believe in a collaborative and an asset-light model where we don't have to fundamentally own all the assets. And I think that has fundamentally helped us drop our cost of healthcare services, which has been very appealing to a lot of our patients.
Oh,
And
yes.
I think this is probably one of those aspects that healthcare providers should look at. And I think even collaboration fundamentally reduces the burden of being innovative. You can't always
Yes.
bring every innovative idea on your own. So if you can start leaning on each other and taking a leaf out of everyone's book, then maybe you could put something together that's quite unique. So I think for me, healthcare is starting to become more collaborative and asset light. I think there's a big there's a big potential here.
That's actually a smart approach, I would say.
I would think
And
so, and I think
yeah.
people are fairly impatient these days. Everyone wants a very quick solution fast. So where you had in the past 10 years to make something, people want it done in 1 or 2 years, right? So if your go-to-market proposition has to be really quick, then you have to look at what you already have rather than think of creating everything on your own. So I think that is something that healthcare really should look at. There are a
Yeah.
lot of younger providers coming into the fold who find this quite appealing. So I think in the next 5 to 10 years, we should see some very interesting models coming out of healthcare.
Oh, yes, very true. And what advice would you like to give to other businesswomen, who want to thrive in a male-dominated industry like yours?
Healthcare, very unfortunately, is still a bit male dominated,
Yeah.
but it's been fantastic to see a lot of female entrepreneurs coming up, even in the oncology space, to do some fairly innovative approaches, bring some fairly innovative ideas to the fold. I think, but one thing I will say is that the sector or the marketplace will always look at a good idea, with without any prejudice, right? So it doesn't matter who generates the idea. So if you have a good idea, of course, you will have to make sure that you've piloted it, prototyped it. You've got to have proof. It just can't be, gut instinct or feeling. It has to be something that you has tangible proof that you can say will work. But if you do bring a good idea to the fold, I think there will be people who look at it and who will be willing to back you. But having said that, yes, there are some prejudices, there are some biases which very sadly are inherent. They are
Hmm.
changing. Um, I don't know how fast they will change or where they'll change. So my advice to most people is if you have conviction in what you're doing, make sure that your proof of concept is solid. You
Hmm.
understand what you are doing, why you're doing it. You have a backup plan of how you will get things kicked off. And
Hmm.
most importantly, I know it's very cliche to say this, but persevere, stay there.
Hmm.
You can't, if you don't have conviction behind your ideas, it'll be very difficult for someone else to build that for you.
Very true.
So you really have to push hard, be there, and
Hmm.
persist. And I think once you are in the flow, then honestly, gender does not matter. You
Yeah.
will be subjected to the same level of problems that everyone
Hmm.
does. Problems
Hmm.
can be very democratic that way. They don't look at gender before they present themselves to you.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I think get going and make sure that if you think your idea has merit, then persevere.
Hmm. Hmm.
And hopefully you'll be able to crack that ceiling very soon.
Yeah. So adding on to this, what do you think is the toughest problem for business women?
I think, well, there will be several answers, I think, depending on who you speak to.
Hmm.
For me, a big part of my career started off with me being a single founder. I do have a co-founder now and have had for the past 4 years. But I think as a single founder, fundraising was very tough.
Hmm.
Single founder, mother of two.
Hmm.
While I can't say that anyone explicitly gave me those reasons for why I
Hmm.
was rejected, there was always a feeling that that was what was going on behind in many
Yeah.
people's minds.
Hmm.
So I think people find a male single co-founder probably easier to back than female
Hmm.
ones.
Hmm. Hmm.
And but it is changing, like I said. But I think getting your fundraise sorted is by far the
Hmm.
most important thing. Because when
Hmm.
you've got your funding secured and when you're working on a model that you hope will break even and become profitable soon, then you're free of the funding market, at least to a
Hmm.
certain
Hmm.
extent. Right? You
Yeah.
can decide your own destiny the way it moves out. But not having funds secured, but having a great idea, potential, that starts getting you into deep trouble. And that adds to the stress that you already have being an
Hmm.
entrepreneur. So I
Hmm.
think
Hmm.
for me, a business problem that really needs to be cracked, apart from making sure that your idea works and you have the right
Hmm.
set of people behind you, is making sure you got your funding secured.
Yeah. Very true. And by 2025, how will our healthcare delivery system change? Like, do you have a roadmap laid for the same?
Yes, so like we discussed, Yatra, we are hoping that we would saturate, our cities of Hyderabad and Vizag. Maybe
Hmm.
by 2026, start looking at other cities to expand to as well.
Hmm.
And maybe this center of excellence that we're hoping to create, where we can bring a lot of our services, like some of our diagnostic services, etc., in-house, is something we can start doing.
Hmm.
So we have a fairly aggressive plan for the
Hmm.
next 2 to 3 years
Hmm.
and pushing very hard to make that happen. So
Hmm.
yeah, fingers crossed. Let's hope it all comes together soon.
I wish you a good luck. So,
Thank you.
what are the reasons for your success? What does it take for you to become a successful entrepreneur in this healthcare space?
I think here again, very personal question because I think it all depends on what you are like and what your personality is like. But
Hmm.
I think for me, apart from work and being extremely focused on work, I
Hmm.
think having a good work-life balance has been very important for me.
Hmm.
And I think it's good when, if you come home, there are people there to ground you
Yeah.
and make sure you get a perspective of what life is all about. Because
Hmm.
sometimes you can't see the wood for the trees and you kind of get bogged down in the detail of everything.
Oh,
So
yes.
stepping back a little and changing perspective,
Hmm.
I think
Hmm.
it's good. It's nice to try and have that dichotomy where you have work and a professional life, but also to have a very meaningful personal life.
Oh, yes.
And I
Very true.
think it tells you that there are other things, that are worth pursuing. And especially when you have bad days, and in entrepreneurship,
Hmm.
4 out of 5 are bad days.
Oh,
When
yeah.
that happens, then I think it's good to know that there is something which is more meaningful back there. So
Hmm.
yeah, I
Hmm.
think for me, having that work-life balance has been very helpful
Hmm.
and just helps me, come back again and again so that I can hopefully try and bring my best game every day.
Yeah. So, adding on to this, what keeps you up at night?
I think for most entrepreneurs, you have to imagine more than what actually exists today,
Hmm.
right? So your vision has to be much bigger. And there are parts of your vision that you start building as you go through. But yeah, I think for me, there are times where you do worry about whether your vision will actually materialize, whether it will come through or not. The other aspect, of course, is the fact that we work in oncology, so it's a high pressure sector.
It is.
It's we deal with a lot of mortality, morbidity in our sector, and I think making sure that being a distributed center, that every bit of service is provided with a very high level of quality, and ensuring that whoever comes to you for service goes
Hmm.
back with a satisfaction that they've actually been taken care of,
Hmm. Hmm.
that we've done right by them. I
Hmm.
think making sure that that happens on a daily basis is
Hmm.
quite
Hmm.
stressful. Because
Yeah.
if we were all under one building rather than being divided across two states and
Hmm.
20 centers, maybe it would have been easier. So we have to very clearly rely and depend on very high quality of processes, process adherence, quality assurance. So I think just making sure all those different pieces of the puzzle click together,
Hmm.
it's like a very big piece of machinery, and every piece has to do its job.
Yeah.
So whether all of that will chug along, work properly, and whatever you're building today, will it help you meet the vision that you're trying to build? So
Hmm.
yeah, there are too many things that actually keep me up at
Yeah.
night. So I think this is where I would like to get disconnected and say there are much more basic mundane things I should focus on, because wake up in the morning, you've got family and things to care about.
Yeah.
So I think that probably helps me disconnect. Yeah, but I think
Absolutely.
most entrepreneurs have an overactive mind anyway.
Yeah.
So it does become difficult to disconnect sometimes.
And I just have one last question. What advice would you like to give for the future doctorpreneurs?
I think it's a fantastic time for them to be doing things. I think I'm very excited by the cadre and caliber of people that are actually coming out now.
Hmm.
I think they've got a very unique perspective on what healthcare has been, but I think they also come out with a very clear and level headed view of what healthcare should be.
Hmm.
And I think, unlike a previous few generations, they are very open to questioning
Hmm.
and wondering why something should continue the way they are. So I
Hmm.
think when you apply or rather combine that very strong training that
Hmm.
some of our doctors get as they pass through and they come into, especially after they do their MBBS, their MD, DM, so they're all
Hmm.
super
Hmm.
specialists now. So you've got that rigor of having learned really well, but
Hmm.
also then that questioning mindset.
Hmm.
Why should everything be the same way? Can't we make things better? So I think that's
Hmm.
a deadly combination to have.
Yeah.
The ability to question and to back it up because you have the skill set to actually do something. So I
Hmm.
think my advice to a lot of doctors would be definitely look at how you can improve existing processes,
Hmm.
how you can make a contribution.
Hmm.
And I think the environment is absolutely right for innovative and new ideas.
Hmm.
So my view would be is if you've got something in your head that's brewing, grab the bull by the horns, just use gumption and just go and try it out.
Hmm.
Right. The saddest thing would be is if you had a fantastic idea, but you were too afraid to try. So a little bit of courage can go a long way. So
Yeah.
if they can just get that focus, they are very good at what they do.
Hmm.
And I think India needs that kind of doctorate now,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And they are absolutely fabulous. I think we've done some fantastic work with the younger doctrineurs, and it's been really, I think, invigorating is probably the feeling I would say working with them.
Hmm.
It's like a breath of fresh air. They don't have biases. They are happy to question. They push the envelope. They challenge us as
Hmm.
well.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
think India really needs that cadre. They need that caliber. So
Yeah.
I think the time is right for them.
Hmm.
If they can find the right set of people to work with, and more importantly, if they pursue and be courageous, I think they can do some fantastic things for Indian healthcare going forward.
Hmm. That's good to hear. Anything would you like to add from your side?
No, nothing much, Chatra. Just,
Yeah.
like we said, oncology, very big sector, lots to do.
Hmm.
So I think I'm actually quite eagerly looking forward to others who will come and join us on this journey.
Hmm.
I think the problem
Yeah.
is fairly big. It can't just be one
It
or two
is.
of us who solve this.
Yeah.
So there are lots of people behind it, lots of innovation. So yeah, hopefully we will have larger communities of, oncology related entrepreneurs, more
Hmm.
discussions, more debates, and hopefully
Yeah.
keep moving this, moving the target along. I think
Hmm.
India has a great opportunity to do something fantastic here.
Hmm.
So hopefully we'll get the right set of people and the right set of ideas. And fingers
Hopefully.
crossed, achieve
Yeah.
both. Yes.
Yeah. Keep up the good work. Yeah.
Thank you very much. We need all the luck we can get. So thank you.
Definitely. So yeah, thank you for your valuable time and tips. It was nice
Thank you,
talking to you,
Chaitra. It was
Mr.
lovely to
Sonali.
talk to you.
Yeah.
All
Bye.
right.
Have a
Thank you.
nice
Bye.
day.
You too. Bye.